we're back with more expected unexpected by Vulpix and also a little bit of coronavirus. Well, a lot of it, especially for this chapter. So, we're now on chapter 69. If you want to follow along, chapter link will be in the description below, but YouTube kind of being weird, so if it does not work, then you go on fanfiction.net, you go for you type in you go for author in the search, make sure it's an author or writer, and you type in Arctic Vulpix, her name or their name will be in the description below. Oh, so you can just copy and paste if you're able to. If you're on a phone, that's a little difficult. Although I don't know if you can like listen and follow along on your phone tab with that. So yeah, but yeah, if you're on like a laptop, computer, whatever, should be able to do that. So highly recommend if you want to follow along, make stuff a lot easier. So let's just get right into this with chapter 69. The police station wasn't very big. Then again, this town didn't really have much crime going on in it. Really, the biggest spot of crime was Freddy's. Not that they could really do anything about it. The lawyers that place must employ to cover everything up must cost them a fortune. The officers on duty were going about their business at their desks or chatting to each other while a couple of minor offenders were being processed in the back. It's pretty common as police stations went. A pretty young guy, probably just out of the academy, was manning the front desk and glared at Jeremy as he entered. It was very jarring compared to the darkness he knew this town possessed. Can I help you, sir? The kid asked cheerfully. Jeremy nodded slightly, slipping something out of his pocket and showing it to the man. Yeah, I told Chief Danvers I was coming. I'm here to check out some of your cold cases. The officer glanced at the badge. His eyebrows popped up and he looked a little confused. Sure, detective. I'll take you upstairs. Just sign this. He pushed a clipboard towards Jeremy and called behind him. Hey, Murdoch, handle the desk for me, will ya? The trip down to the records room was awkward for a few seconds. So, what's a big city detective like you doing in a town like this? The officer asked, trying to make conversation. Jeremy was quiet for a minute. I'm working a case. Oh, yeah, I figured. The officer seemed embarrassed to have asked. Well, what's your name? Jeremy asked. He wasn't trying to be standoffish. He was just distracted. Daly, sir. Rick Daly. How long have you been on the force, Daly? Daly laughed. So, Ricky, I got out of the academy 4 months ago. Jeremy snorted. Sergeant Stone's still here. The kid looked at him awkwardly. Uh, Sergeant Stone hasn't been around for 6 years, sir, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. He never taught me, so I just know about him from the older guys. Did you know him? He looked curious. It was an avoided topic in the station. Jerry frowned then, seeing these tones, but chuckled fondly. He graduated from the academy here. He was my class drill sergeant. Taught me most of what I know. We were close, but lost touch after I got promoted and moved. He paused and shrugged. Actually, I was hoping to catch up with him while I was in town. He retired? Jerry couldn't imagine Stone was old enough to retire. Plus, he was a stubborn jerk and probably couldn't stand being away from the station, even if he was retired. Daly paused at the door to the cold case office and grunted. I'm sorry. Sergeant Stone died 6 years ago. His tone was apologetic. It wasn't all that common for old students or buddies of Stone to come by looking to get back in contact with him. He was one of those guys that seemed to get along with everyone and made friends just by breathing. Of course, if the rumors were to be believed, he was also a tough superior. According to Officer Black, that would be the only way the sergeant would ever have retired. He gave a weak smile. He always cracked bad jokes when he was uncomfortable. Jeremy immediately felt as if someone had drop kicked him in the stomach. If they were still on the stairs, he probably would have tripped and fallen down a flight. He froze for a second and swallowed. It took him a second to breathe out a weak laugh. Yeah, that's right. Sarge would have needed to be dragged out. He was afraid to ask. Being in the force wasn't exactly a safe job. What happened? It didn't seem real. Stone was always so tough and sure of himself. He could be strict, but he was fair and a good friend. Once, after a really bad call, he sat Jeremy and a couple other you guys down and talked them through what happened. Even though they were already ordered to meet with the station's counselor the next day, Jeremy struggled to believe he was just gone. Dee looked away, uncomfortable with grief at his young age. Car crash. No foul play or anything. Apparently the entire force was out checking after it happened to make sure. Just really bad luck. Ran at night, didn't see the other car. The other car didn't see him. He stared at the door. His desk is still up there. None of the officers will take it. It's just like he left it with his photos and stuff. I'm sure Officer Black would let you take a look if you want before you left, if it would help. Jeremy nodded silently and went through the door as Daly held it open for him. Yeah, I'd appreciate it. So, what cold case are you looking for? He asked with forced cheerfulness. The room wasn't very big since the town didn't have a history of unsolved crimes. Luckily, it was neat and organized. Jeremy hesitated, unsure if it was a good idea to say so. The 1986 disappearances. Daly looked startled. Actually, Jeremy said before Daly could reply, anything you have involving Freddy's. Daly shifted, but made a beeline toward a section of the room. Jeremy trailing behind. I heard one of them was found, Daly said, trying not to sound too interested. A little girl? It was surprised he even knew the case that existed to begin with. Curiosity killed the cat. Jeremy eventually spoke. She wasn't lost. They found her crying and covered in blood. That's what got the police involved in the first place. I would think some kids going missing would. Well, the kids didn't think they were missing first. It was a different time. People were a lot more trusting back then, and the town was smaller. The idea that anyone, a neighbor, could have kidnapped someone's kids was unheard of. The chief at the time was so adamant it had to be someone from out of town that by the time he was pulling in locals for questioning, the suspect had plenty of time to. Jeremy trailed off, the previous night coming to mind. It was one thing thinking about the murderer as some faceless monster. It was another to have him mock you face to face. 1996. You were there? Daly asked, reading labels on the boxes. Jeremy didn't look old enough. You could say that. Eventually, Daly pulled out a box and dropped it on the table. There's not much. Everyone in the station has said it some point or another. Cause of the urban rumors, Cossiter's naturally curious. He gave a weak smile. Do you need me to stay, or have you got this? Jerry waved him off. I'm good. Thanks, Daly. No problem, sir. Let me know if you need anything. Jerry was already looking through the box and barely noticed the other cop leave. This was it. He knew it was a slim case file, but he could have sworn it was more than this. There was the initial report that was filed because of Heatley. Then there was the very basic missing person reports for the kids. There weren't any interviews with employees here or even evidence from the crime scene. The forensic report was clean. Instead, the majority of the files made up of cease and desist orders from lawyers. It made his blood boil reading them. The lack of regard for grieving families was sickening, but he pushed through. He noticed his family mentioned a few times, which wasn't a surprise, but it was very annoying how the lawyers refused to acknowledge any of the children by name. He got it was the lawyer's job, but how illegal were they willing to be? Cease and desist letters wouldn't be enough to derail the investigation. There had to be something sketchy going on under the table. Something that would make the police go against everything they believed in to turn a blind eye. Of course, something like that wouldn't be in the actual report. According to the file, the main officer assigned to the case had been Officer Black. Talking to him would probably be his best bet at finding out what had stalled the investigation so thoroughly. Something must have happened to stop this entire station from digging any deeper. Jerry stayed for a couple more hours in a cold, dry basement, poring over the files. Finally, he decided he wasn't going to learn anything he didn't already know. Word of his arrival had apparently spread by the time he made his way back upstairs. A man much taller than him dropped in the doorway with a bone-crushing handshake before Jeremy even had a moment to introduce himself. "Name's Alistair Black. I heard you were a friend of Stone?" he asked in a deep voice. It was pretty obvious that most of the station was listening in, as Officer Black was not a quiet person. Any friend of his is a friend of ours. There were many nods of agreement all around. "Jeremy Fitzgerald," Jeremy said, giving the hand a hearty shake. "Sorry for your loss. I didn't even know you passed. It was sudden. He knew so many people we couldn't contact them all for the funeral, and his wife was killed with him, so she couldn't help. He'd never met the woman. All he knew was that she was the only person on the planet that had actually scared Sergeant Stone. A single phone call from her had him chipping in his hurry to get home on a number of occasions. Jerry felt a pit in his stomach. Didn't they have a daughter? Yeah, little Spitfire girl. He chuckled. Most of the cops had fond, expressive looks on their faces. She barely survived the crash, but she's a tough girl. He's dead on that side of the room, if you want to take a look. She wouldn't take the family photos, so they're still there." Jeremy nodded, so Bob gestured for him to follow. Just as we left it, the other man said, waving a hand at the desk. A stack of faded sticky notes. A pencil cup full of unusable pencils and a match of cheap pens, half of which didn't work, but Stone forgot to throw away. Jeremy couldn't believe it. The dustless, organized clutter made it look like Stone was going to walk through the door any moment. He'd get on the station's case for pranking their guests, all while laughing about it as he clapped Jeremy on the shoulder and started embarrassing him the stories of Jeremy's rookie days. Then he'd just sit down and scowl the man for not stopping by to chat the past 10 years. He'd ask about the kids and give Jeremy dad advice. They both knew Stone was pulling out of his keister as they talked. Clay paperweight made by a young child. It was impossible to tell what kind of animal it was supposed to be, but it was messily painted red with pipe cleaners for whiskers and something resembling a tail. The Stone never burst through the door, shouting, "Fitzgerald!" And Jeremy swallowed the lump in his throat as his eyes continued to rove over the articles on the desk. He was too distracted to listen to Black talk about how Stone was so proud of his family and how the man spoiled his daughter and his wife in the duration. "Good girls," he'd call them. Black chuckled. "An old computer unplugged long ago." Jeremy chuckled automatically in reply, but he was stuck in his own thoughts. He was a little mad at himself. It was his fault for not bothering to call a single time over the years. If the timing was different, Jeremy knew it wouldn't hit him as hard as it was. He'd have a clear head, but things really sucked at the moment, and this was the sour rum cherry on top. He'd been lying to him for months at the cost of her safety was his first hit. Then he learned Scott was dead, murdered by his nightmares, and had been for a while without Jeremy even knowing. Then, of course, the ghost children came into the picture. That was plain depressing and horrible. Then the murderer shows his infuriating grin, and that was just hell on earth. Meanwhile, Jeremy was forced to sit back and watch a teenager with clear mental instabilities handle it. A single sticky note on the computer saying, "Don't forget gas." It all comes to this. Learning one of the last guys Jeremy could call a father figure was dead and gone for years. And he didn't even know it happened. It was like a curse. He was always late, always the last to know, long after he had any chance to make a difference, long after he was too late to save anyone. A group of family photos beside the computer. His thoughts were rudely interrupted by a flash of black hair and two sets of green eyes, courtesy of Stone's wife and daughter, neither of whom Jeremy had seen before. The photo was old and fairly faded with constant exposure to light, but Jeremy's eyes landed on the figures and immediately he felt his legs turn to jelly, just a little bit, as his brain struggled to catch up with his eyes. Officers were trying not to make it obvious they were watching Jeremy. He was a stranger to those present, and it was suspicious for a big city detective to show up out of the blue to look at case files. They were curious, but work had to be done, and bookings had to be filed, so the peanut gallery of men and women gradually went back to work, and it was clear nothing interesting was going to happen as Black talked the guy's ear off. Then the white noise of the mostly quiet station was shattered. Damn it! You gotta be kidding me! His tone of volume was so unexpected that a coffee pot was spilled, and three people ran into the sharp corners of their desks in shock. Alistair cut it off and stared at Jeremy. You okay, sir? Jeremy was rubbing Bogey's eyes with the heel of his thumb and groaning. He took a sharp breath. Ruby Stone. Her name is Ruby Stone. Ruby is Stone's daughter. He understood the expression on his face since when Black mentioned Spitfire earlier. Suddenly, the paperweight was looking an awful lot like a fox. Alistair gave him a strange look while the entire station returned to staring at him. Yeah, he replied slowly. Ruby Stone, resident troublemaker? Even Stone could barely keep up with her. The amount of times he'd come into work, slumped at his desk, and started telling everyone the latest story of what she got up to, last and endless. He looked closely at Jeremy. Do you know her? Considering that reaction, she doesn't look anything like her dad. More a spitting image of her mom. He gestured at the photo where the grinning kid really did resemble her mother the most. And now that he knew what she looked like as a teen, Ruby looked even more like her. The most jarring thing about the pictures, though, was how happy she looked. There was no haunted look in her eyes or sarcastic twist to her smile. She just looked happy. In all his time at the restaurant, he'd never seen Ruby look like that. He'd seen her apparently carefree and spreading chaos, but there was always something in her expression that kept her from looking completely happy. Even when she was sitting with Foxy or Bonnie and just talking, the ghost in her eyes was just as apparent as the ghost in the pizzeria. He seen her sad and even angry, something she must have inherited from her father now that he thought about it. That intensity and menace was all Sergeant Stone. But never truly happy like she was here in the photos. Eyes clear and smile bright. He knew vaguely from TV what had happened to her parents, but to make this connection, she used to say that she was going to become a cop when she grew up. She idolized the Sarge, as this sounded like his far away. Under his desk was a box with confiscated scrolls across it. Inside was a number of weird items ranging from mangled bits of machinery to a taser that was still sparking. The stuff had Ruby written all over it, as if she put her name on everything in black marker. Oh, that? Every time we catch her with something new and potentially dangerous, we confiscate it and put it here. No one's got the heart to throw our stuff away, and it kind of feels right to store it at his desk. Although she always snatches something whenever she visits. She'll sit at the desk for a bit, and when she leaves, something is missing from the box. You can even see how she does it on the cameras. She chuckled. There were responding chuckles from the rest of the station as they all got nostalgic looks on their faces. Jerry groaned softly as he let the pieces settle in his mind, hands still pressing into his eye sockets as he attempted to rub the sand from the last few sleepless nights away. My kid sister works late nights with Ruby. They work basically on their own, so they've gotten to know each other pretty well. I got introduced a little while ago. There are a few snickers at his expense. Yeah, she could be a bit much at first, huh? Officer Black patted his shoulder. But give her some time. She's a good kid under all that madness. You might not want to mention that you knew her dad, another officer warned him. She didn't take their death well. The snickers faded and everyone looked pensive now. She doesn't like to talk about it, another cop told him. That was an understatement. If anyone even hinted at her past, the girl shut up and led them into submission. Dee was the only one who managed to pry any details out of her, when the team was angry with her, of course. Jeremy looked a bit apprehensive, unsure if Dee had mentioned his job to Ruby or Indiana Times yet. If so, the topic might be unavoidable. I'll keep that in mind. And whatever you do, don't get on the girl's bad side. She might look like her mom, but her temper is all stone. One of the wins. I heard he made some stupid comments once. After she was through with him, he immediately requested a transfer as far away from here as possible. Also developed a nervous twitch and curled into the fetal position whenever he saw Glitter. Jeremy stared for a second. Too late, he thought to himself. A little spike of anger with the situation back at the pizzeria popping up before he squashed it. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't recognize the temper right away. Another officer came over, coffee mug in hand, and joined the conversation. Miss Cheryl, right? I'm curious. What does your sister do? She said. Ruby has the best luck keeping the job for long. They do different things, Jim said. Should he even mention Buddy? Did they not know where Ruby was working? They just both worked at the same place. My sister's head mechanic, Ruby. She chuckled dryly. Ruby worked security. That sparked another round of chuckles, but this time it was a little sad. I'm Jones, the future dream side too, he explained. Not for his job, but it's close enough to hope that she might be getting better. Things were really bad for a while. Jerry nodded sharply. Thanks for showing me this slack. Please, call me Alistair. Work, pal. Do the work. Ruby don't say anything. Funny you should say that, Jerry said. I was hoping you had some time to talk about an old case. I'll shrug. Gotta be more specific, son. I worked on a lot of cases. Freddie, you were the lead back in '96, right? Al sipped his coffee and looked Jeremy over the edge of his mouth before answering. They're reopening that one? I was told. No, it's kind of a personal project, Jeremy said. Al crossed his arms. You mean you hottie, said Gerald. That place is no good. I just have a few questions. Al seemed to consider it for a minute. My shift ends in an hour. I got time then. Jeremy glanced at the clock. He was hoping to catch some sleep before he had to be at the cafeteria. The rest of the station had gone back to work, so it was just the two of them talking now. He can hang around here for an hour and come back afterwards. She didn't seem keen on talking about the case, although most people were that way whenever Freddy's was brought up. You got a place I can sit? The other man gestured and suggested the chair beside it. Thanks. Jerry sat down and watched his black run off somewhere else. After a minute, Jeremy pulled out his phone and dialed his number in his contact. Hello, hello. Peter's voice came through. She sounded cheerful, but it was really full. She was exhausted. Hey, I have my next class soon. What do you want? By any chance, have you told your friends what I do? What, that you're a cop? That you're a homicidal investigator? Hasn't come up. I'm aware of the irony. Maybe don't tell anyone, especially Ruby. Why? I just found out I knew her dad. He was my instructor at the academy. Oh no. Yeah, I won't tell her. She has a habit of finding things out. That was true. And if he understood the hits the cops dropped in the conversation, it sounds like she visited the station often. So it was the mention to him that could all come out in the unpleasant, why are you hiding things away? What am I? It did explain why she got so much leeway with the law in town, though. They all knew her and were willing to let things slide, especially considering that she usually didn't mean too much harm. It was probably like having a whole bunch of uncles on your force. Maybe tell her when the time's right. Not tonight, obviously. She stopped the agreement. Jerry waited for Phoebe to continue the conversation, but she didn't say anything. Now you exist. How do you think? He answered sarcastically. I'm sorry this is happening. Not your fault. Not Ruby's fault either, she added. We didn't know, but this must be a long time coming. You need to stop doing work. That bastard is enjoying it. You can't do that. They get kicked out of me running away. I'm not interested in giving him the satisfaction. Ruby needs to stop treating this like a game. There's too much at risk. Well, it is a game. One with high stakes, but a game nonetheless. She sounded resigned. There's gotta be something we can do. He didn't answer. Eventually she said, I'll see you tonight. She, wait. Hmm? Jeremy hesitated as he glanced at the box on his stone desk. His eyes rushed towards the sparking thing. You know that question I asked last night? He stayed silent. How much electricity does Ruby have in what taser she made? How does she make them lock up? She has two settings, high voltage and low. She uses high voltage when looking to decapitate a human and low with the other time. Jerry blinks. I would think it's the other way around. Nope, a lot of voltage but low amplitude is used when it's set to hurt humans. She started slipping into a nerve mode. This is the kind of stuff she wants to talk about. 3 volts is enough to kill humans, but tasers use 50,000. It's a tiny amount of milliamps that made it painful but safe. Basically, it's not like the electricity for a short amount of time exposed to it. The bots run naturally on about 500 volts of pixels, thermal magnitudes of 10 amps. So touching exposed wire on metal could kill me if I'm not careful. Humans and bots react differently to a taser, but the effect appears the same. When human muscles are exposed to high voltage, they spasm and lose most of control. With animatronics, their systems trip like a surge protector and that shuts them down. It doesn't take much voltage to do that, because living uses way less so it doesn't hurt them permanently. The amps don't matter as much to them because of circuit breakers. Ironically, humans are tougher than electricity. How much that voltage would it take to kill them? It was quiet on the other line, and for a moment Jeremy thought he would hang up on him. When she spoke, she sounded as if she was ashamed to tell it. Just trying from an outside source, she whispered. Fuses only work for human surgeries. If the whole body is flooded, they short. The taser just sat there instantly sparking him. Thanks, sis. He hung up after he said goodbye. He might not know her well, but he knew for sure that he would never forgive either thing she did what he was considering. Despite her violent tendencies, she valued life above everything else, and she saw the bot as his life. As long as she thought Spring was alive, she would stop trying to free him, or defend him if she thought it was necessary. Since she had already overheard him asking some suspicious questions, she'd no doubt be on alert from now on. Could he do this? On the other hand, could he live with himself if he did nothing? Neither was an easy question, and the answer could change things drastically at Freddy's. He rested his head in his hands and groaned. And that's the end of chapter 59. So it mainly was Jeremy. I don't think it was Jeremy. He's basically her dad. So, and it's a lot longer chapter, so I hope you enjoyed that too. But yeah, so, oh, you enjoyed the video? You did? Is a like, go leave a review. We are down here, like I said, getting very the chapter. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but I also told you how to get there, so, go, we're down here. But before you do so, be sure to subscribe for new videos every Friday and Saturday.